1 hour presentation or less to try and knock this out. Myself is Lane Kawaoka, and Kenny Wolf, you want to say hi for folks?
Hey guys, Kenny Wolf here.
Yeah, so we are talking about this opportunity that Kenny brought to me probably about a month ago, the trails at Rancho Vista. We are talking about the 309 unit at 5249 Ren Avenue, El Paso, Texas. So if you guys don't know where El Paso is, that's on the western tip of Texas, the tertiary market. But as we will get moving through the presentation, it's very things are happening out there. It's quite the emerging market. Kind of go over the highlights here. Minimum investment, 50,000. We are taking non-accredited investors on this, but a limited amount with a pre-existing relationship. Now, investment term is about 5 to 7 years. If you need the money before that, you probably shouldn't be investing in this investment. And I mean, man, wow, Kenny, like I almost fell out of my seat the other day when I saw this 5-year ROI total. For you guys don't know how I do this, I'll usually analyze the deals separately just to kind of, double check Kenny. And it's good to have I don't get influenced by how he underwrites his deal. So, I mean, I underwrote it for about, 120, 130% in 5 years. So I was just kind of curious what Kenny would put it out as. And maybe you can show me what you did to make it a little bit more conservative as we move on. But
Yeah.
I knew it was going to be high, but I haven't seen a deal like this in a couple years. I mean, this is all at 2014, 2015, right? Or earlier?
Yeah, El Paso is one of those markets where it hasn't broken open yet to the California and the big buyers here in Dallas yet. I think it's coming. There was a deal that actually just went under LOI for sure, and then contract there in El Paso, and it's a C-class deal called La Privada. It's on the same side of the mountain as this one, and it just went under contract at $53,000 a door. And we've got ours for $46,000. Ours is a better asset because it's got individual HVAC, and the other one that went under contract for a higher price has swamp coolers, which are not ideal for El Paso. So, anyways, that's why I think the returns are going to be pretty big out there because the appreciation is coming.
Right, and big returns don't always mean higher risk. I think this was pretty indicative of a lot of the investors did the AHP deal with me, and they were giving out 12% at the time, and people thought that was too risky because the returns were too high. I mean, this deal is underwritten really soundly, and we'll get through that. But I mean, what makes this deal is at $47K a unit, right? That's
right.
Pretty much where the equity starts, pretty much from day one. And yeah, that was me. I don't eat cereal, but I try and stay away from those carbs. But yeah, that was me the other day. But here's the disclaimer. I don't know. Do we need to read this for the folks, or can we just?
I think it's fine. You're going to share this to everybody as well, right? So,
yeah. We won't bore anybody with that. But yeah, why don't you kind of take over from here, and I'll kind of interject with some of the listener questions.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, let's. This is open to accredited and sophisticated investors. It's in El Paso, Texas. Wolf Investments. We already have a property there, 188 units. We bought it back in. It would have been September of last year is when we bought that deal. So, and it's about 10-minute drive to this property as well, the same side of the mountain. So I'm excited actually to be able to share maintenance folks and on both these deals. I think it's going to help us help both properties. When we bought a second property in a market, it's always helped our first one and the second one be a lot more smoother on the operations because we can cross train folks. Location wise, it's a really good location. Well, I guess we're gonna get into that here in a second, but it's 309 units, 1 bedroom, 1 bath. It is built in 1963, but the construction out there is a little bit different than the rest of Texas, as El Paso is in general, a little bit different than the rest of Texas. But you've got cement walls, cement blocks in every single unit. So it's a really sturdy asset. It's all brick. It is flat roofs, but El Paso rains each year is only 10 inches for the entire year. So it's a high desert climate. So I'm not too concerned about the roofs. They've checked out so far. We are going to replace the office roof. Um, the seller's going to give us a credit for that. And then there's just some minor repairs for the other parts of the roof where we'll fix those up. And again, the seller's going to give us a credit for that as well. Average rent per square foot is really low for El Paso. 80 cents a foot is really low, even for this C plus asset class. Um, we'll look at some comps down the road, but they're more pushing 90 cents to $1 a foot there. The average occupancy is 92% there, kind of all in El Paso. That's kind of what their average is. So I expect us to remain steady there. Um, there you go.
There you
So,
go.
and what's really cool is so you can see Dyer Street. So all those numbers, the 1 through 6, right there. That's Dyer Street. That's a pretty big thoroughfare. Lots of what's cool about it is there's lots of new retail going in and replacing the old retail. So you can tell there's some growth going on right there in the city. You'll see our property there on the right, trails at Rancho Vista. We are literally right next to Urban High School, which is great because we have, and then elementary schools on the opposite side of the high school. So we're the closest property to these to the schools, which is always helps. And then that retail kind of redevelopments is going really strong.
Yeah, so that for people who haven't been in Texas very much, even in El Paso, you'll have like a football stadium that looks A class in most city and states. That's pretty much right adjacent to the property here.
Right.
And I'll kind of put in some pictures of here on my trip where I was this last weekend. There on the left, you see the new retail front going up. This is right across the street. And then on the bottom right, that's the transit center. I didn't quite understand really. I just assumed that was just where the bus would kind of come in and out, but it's kind of a newly built one. And the property management was kind of talking about it a lot. So I figured
Right.
that was kind of a big thing. There is a better picture of it there with a timely bus in the area. So I'm trying to work on my photography skills. As a city engineer for like a couple years, this is kind of a big thing. These bike. I mean, you go into these places and you always look for the defined curb and gutter. So I mean, here in that drier street, most times on these Class C areas, a lot of times you'll find the older style curb and gutter. Definitely no ADA. You see that ADA ramp there with the little bumpies. That's a little tan or different color than the rest. And then the progressive bike box here. And actually, the bike box is way more progressive. Most cities barely even have the green path these days. So definitely from a city planner's perspective, this is kind of the good stuff to see.
Right.
And then right adjacent behind it, I guess the story that I heard was this used to be a Kmart back there, and it kind of was. It closed like a couple years ago, and no one went there for the longest time. And now it's finally deboxing is the term that they like to use, where you take a Kmart or a big box retailer and you chop it up into more usable sizes. And that's opening up here pretty soon. They're doing a bunch of construction on it, so that's exactly where a lot of our folks will probably work at and maybe spend some of their money. And then I think I don't know what your thoughts are, Kenny, but I think the Panda Express, that's kind of the indicators of like, you used to be able to like look where Walmart goes and Starbucks goes or Whole Foods goes, but for Class C, Panda Express, and it's a pretty nice one. It's like a walking distance away.
Right. Yeah. And there's a lot of those kind of new or those restaurants are getting a revamp like that as well along Dyer Street. So it's the growth is definitely there.
And here is not our apartments. This is some of the comps, Maximus apartments that I drove, and this is a pretty I think it's like a 60 unit out there.
Yeah, I like the shopping cart right there. That's
Yeah,
fun.
so typical mom and pa operation out there. Here's some of the competition. Um, there were four other ones, but yeah, why don't you kind of take us over the unit mix and then some of the numbers, and I kind of want to know what you pulled last second there before me to get right under 120% ROI in 5 years too.
Yeah, yeah, sure. So the unit mix, we've got mostly two bedrooms. You see 189, 61s bedrooms, 63 bedrooms. So average square foot is pretty large, and which is a good thing because we're right next to the high school and the elementary school, right? So that's who we're going to be targeting, families that go there for the most part. Again, the square foot rent per square foot is pretty low. Let me move this box, but is 80 cents a square foot, and we'll there's another slide. We'll go over the comps, but that's really low. This is and also too on these units. This is the second asset we bought from this seller. The first deal we bought in El Paso was from this guy. So this acquisition is direct sale between the seller and us. There's no broker involved, so we both save a little bit of money on that. So I kind of know what we're going to get. He's put in faux wood in almost the entire property, but he doesn't charge upgrade rents for that. So like at our property now that we already have there, on our classic units, we're going in and we're able to get $60 rent bumps without doing any kind of capital improvement to the asset. So his rents are typically lower than what they should be. So I expect us to be able to push rents pretty quickly.
Yeah, and then again, the price per unit, 47,000 a unit, because it was direct to seller. And any part of the story you want to add there, just kind of how the deal happened and
Yeah, so
or
we
how
bought
we
this
started.
first one. So in El Paso, it's an interesting market. The reason why I think there's some natural barriers to entry, and so most of it's around. There are six families that own 80% of the units in El Paso, which means that there's really not any third party management companies out there too much yet. There's one or two, but they're not great. Um, so that's kind of given us an advantage because we own. I partially own Allied Property Management, um, who's going out there now. So they manage our property out there now, and they'll manage this one. So we're able to buy these deals, self manage them, and that kind of sets us apart from other potential buyers. So this deal happened because I took the seller out to lunch after we bought the first deal, and from there I just kind of let him know, if you have anything else to sell us, let me know. He owns 10,000 units in just in El Paso, and we left, and he said, no, we're not selling anything. And then 2 weeks later, he said, hey, do you want to buy this deal? So that's kind of how it came up.
Yeah, and one of the reasons I like working with Kenny, for you guys to know, he's got his own in-house property management company. So for syndicators kind of moving up, that's big. I know what's the plan with the property management company? Because when you kind of sent me in here to kind of secret shop, um, and they didn't really help me out right away. I mean, of course, they were nice after when they figured out who I was. But
Gotcha. Well, and so his man, so the seller also self manages. He owns 10,000 units in El Paso. So what we found is that their customer service isn't always great. Um, they tend to over improve the property, which is good for us. But their the service side on the rental, and actually once the residents need a work order or something like that, they're a little slow on fixing those things, on those items. They get them done. They're not really timely about it.
because currently they have what Integrity out there, that Integrity Property Management Company is currently
Right. Yeah.
running it.
Integrity is the seller's property management company.
Okay, okay, and then they also manage. I forget which one off the top of my head, but they also manage this other one, and um, yeah, it's either them or just that shopping cart property management company out there.
Right.
But is your plan to kind of use the same staff there, or you're gonna bring everybody fresh, or
So Richard, is the seller. He likes to keep his staff. So we're interviewing new folks.
yeah, take the best and
Right. If
yeah,
we can keep I like to keep the maintenance guys if we can, because they know where all the dead bodies are, and that's a figurative term, hopefully not real, are buried. So we can, I like to keep them. Typically the management staff, they don't really understand where we're taking the next, because they've been leasing these at such low rents that, when we come and said, hey, go get $60 for just cleaning the unit and showing it better, they kind of scratch their head. So we like to use new management staff.
Right.
There's the office. There's the floor plans. They're big. I mean, you walk in, they're very open. Um, they look sharp. They put a lot of faux wood into it. The bathrooms. We'll get to those pictures, but they really deck those out. And we'll show you those in a second. But they put a lot of money into like a really cool looking tile surround there. There you go. You can see it's a pretty open floor plan for being this vintage. You've got the kitchen right there, right into the living room. That's kind of your typical bedroom right there.
This unit right here, this 3 bedroom unit, 1,100 square feet, is bigger than what I have in Hawaii right now.
How does the rent compare?
I paid like 3,000 a month.
On sale now.
That's what I was doing when I was walking this one. And for the folks watching live, what I'll do is I'll release a video of the walkthroughs on these units so you guys can get a sense. And then as we release the webinar, maybe I'll splice them in here so there'll be a little movie magic.
There you go. All right, so the comps there. I mean, so overall the market's at 92% there in El Paso. In our little section of El Paso, we've got rents are about the same. Just our units are a lot bigger than everybody else. That's why you're seeing the difference in the average rent per square foot.
So what do you use for economic vacancy in here? Just a regular
We really
3%.
walked it down. I mean, we were
And for those of you guys who don't know, you show a certain amount of occupancy on here, 92% in this case. But there's always going to be throughout the months of like people not paying. So, you want to show a few percent points just so it's accounted for in the underwriting. But different cities they range a little bit different. It might just be plus or minus a percent, but I'm just kind of curious what you're thinking on for El Paso was.
So I mean, I think we'll hit. So we underwrote a stable property at 12% economic vacancy. I think we can beat that for sure. But that's kind of where I thought where we kind of put the stable numbers at. But we walked it down from. I need to look, but I think it was from like 15 or 17, 15, 13, and then 12, kind of over the first 3 years. Again, that's kind of where we baked into that's the conservative amount. The property is sitting at not just or above 90% occupancy. So we're going to have folks that don't pay, but it's going to be a lot less than that
Yeah.
when we're going to get in there.
Yeah, so you kind of, I think for the folks not as familiar with what Kenny's talking about, instead of just doing kind of a straight line, where it's going to be 12 or 13% economic vacancy every year, he kind of went in each year and kind of went in there and geeked out on that. But it
Yeah, I
doesn't
did.
change it
Sorry
too
about
much.
that. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So it's got a really big clubhouse. That's nice about these kind of older deals. The clubhouse is huge. There's a huge community room with full glass from floor to ceiling, windows that overlooks the big pool. It seems to be bigger than an Olympic size pool. It's big. It's partially covered. We got a playground over there. Mentioned the community room. It's got a fitness center as well.
And I'll put in the videos, and if you guys are interested in coming in on a deal, make sure you guys get the videos of the live walkthroughs on this one for me.
There's some more pictures. We got the beautiful mountain in the background down there. That's pretty cool. I like to see that.
Yeah.
That's kind of your typical xeriscape there at the property. There's courtyards here in on this property, and the city of El Paso actually paid the seller to take out the grass and the sprinklers there. So they paid for crushed granite. So there's crushed granite all over this place in the courtyard. So which we'll dress up. They're kind of barren looking, but we'll add some pergolas, a barbecue pit, some benches for folks to sit down and hang out there. There you've got again, you got the workout facility. You've got one of their staged units right there. You can see it's got faux wood beneath that kind of
Yeah,
carpet
the
right
upper
there.
right picture there. Yeah.
Right, and then the bottom right, that's basically, you see those tile surrounds. They did that in every single unit in the property, and that's kind of just shows you what the level of money they put back into their properties, but they're not charging any kind of upgrade for that. So he's leaving money on the table, and that's good for us.
Yeah, and I asked the property management company, hey, if there was an infusion of capex, what do you guys think it would be? And whether it was right or wrong, their answer was like on this playground here, they'd like to see it more instead of sand because the sand kind of blows around some different material. But whether they're right or wrong, who knows? That's just their opinion.
Yeah, I mean, so well, and maybe there's some more pictures, but we plan on doing like a glass tile backsplash and kind of getting their upgrades more systematic. Right now, they kind of they can choose their own adventure story with their upgrades on the units. So if they want a backsplash or appliance package, it's $35 more.
Yeah, their model unit has the backsplash, but yeah, you're right. It's kind of all over the place. They're still kind of testing it, I think.
Right. So here's the timeline. We obviously acquire the property. We're scheduled to close April 2nd. We've got some extensions in there, which we may or may not use, but we'll get the property bought in April for sure. Definitely by mid-April. We'll start the exterior rehab. Again, there's not a lot to do in the exterior except for we'll get the office roof replaced and the small repairs on the rest of the roof done. We always rebrand our properties, so we'll rename it probably something agave. Um, we are it kind of it might be see it as a sister property to our other one up there, Montana agave. And we'll start the interior office refresh. It doesn't need a lot. I'm not a big fan of the flooring in there, so we'll replace the flooring for sure. Do the small little upgrades there. Start the interior units rehab. So we'll do. Usually we go in and just do 10 and test the market, kind of what we can get away with. So we're going to plan to do black appliances and a backsplash. We only put in $35 rent premiums. We're getting a lot higher than that at our other property. We're getting $100 at our other properties for that. The other property there. So I think 35 should be a layup. We'll finish the rehab in the 6 to 12 month part on the exterior for sure, the office, all those, and we'll probably hit the 50% of the units upgraded by the end of month 12. It'll be right around there. Obviously, continue pushing rents and renewals to catch up what we have now to what the market rents are. And then 12 to 18 months, we're planning to do a cash out refi on this deal. So we'll be able to pull some money out and give it back to investors through a tax deferred cash out refi on that. Obviously, continue stable operations, and then usually once we do the first 50%, we either continue to do the same upgrade level if we haven't saturated the market, or we try a new level of upgrade on the ones we've already upgraded. So it kind of we go back and kind of test a few and see what works best there for the market.
So that cash out refinance, will that be into a long-term Fannie Freddie loan?
Right. Yeah. Well, we'll go to a Fannie or Freddie Mac, whatever agency gives us the best deal.
So if you guys didn't know, that was Kenny Wolf talking the whole time. He's got about 2,800 or so units. Myself, this is kind of old since the last deal we did. I didn't change it. I've got 2,100 units now.
Nice.
Yeah, it sounds really impressive, I guess, but
Yeah.
it's been nice. I get to kind of sit in the jump seat with a lot of you guys, Kenny. So um, I think I know a thing or two now.
That's good.
Try and help out if I can. So I'll kind of go over the highlights here with the purchase price, the 14.5 million price per unit, just under 47. That's really what makes this deal work. Rehab costs 850,000. You guys divide that by 309. That's about 2,700 rehab cost per unit, which is not very high. A lot of that is because the units are already they're already pretty dang good.
Right.
What would you say like the most of that's exterior, right? I mean, other than the backsplash and that kind of
Yeah, I mean,
appliances.
the interiors are going to be so well, I'll go to the exterior stuff. So and I'll start here with the pool. You can see it. It's partially covered, which is nice, but you can see it's missing some of the roof there on the covered part. So we'll fix that, dress that up, definitely. You can kind of see it, but they're past that covered part of the pool, the floor to ceiling glass right there. So we'll dress that up a little bit, but I mean, most of the money is going to be going into the interiors because it'll cost us about $1,200 for the black appliance package, brand new ones, and then the glass tile backsplash is probably another 300, 350, $350 on those as well. So, and because he's already done a lot of the faux wood, so that takes off about 800 to $1,000 um, in cost for us to upgrade these units. So that's to me where we're saving the money. The other parts I kind of mentioned over the courtyards, we want to add some pergolas and make those kind of dress those up a little bit. We'll add a little bit. We'll add new. It's small, but we'll add new ground cover for the playground. That's easy stuff, not expensive. But the interiors are kind of where it's going to be going into.
Yeah, and the clubhouse when you just walk through there, it just feels a little bit sleepy. And this pool picture looks amazing.
Right.
It's very artistic, but you know when you're out there, it doesn't feel like too much. I mean, it's kind of
We'll dress it up.
yeah, definitely needs a little help.
Right. Needs a little bit more. So average 5 year cash flow is 9.64. Total return is 120. And again, well, the initial terms is a non-recourse bridge loan. So we've got 3 years of the initial term and two optional 1 year extensions. So um, it's a great loan. The cool thing, it's interest only as well. And then it'll by doing the non-recourse bridge, because we're going to be able to move up our NOI so quickly, we'll be able to really push the proceeds from our for the non-recourse agency loan will go into once we're ready to do that.
So let me I'll kind of repeat that in a different way because the I think the financing is you know most people know enough to know that financing from Freddie Fannie right off the bat non-recourse is kind of preferred or the default path. We're still getting the non-recourse loan there, so check the box with that. Um, but it's not it's kind of a bridge loan going in off the bat. And the reason I justify this is because the price per unit is there. We've got so much sort of momentum behind us already. It's really worth that extra little risk for a great amount of reward, the initial NOI bump, and then go on refinance it for that long term debt after that.
Right, because the cool thing about doing the bridge loan, if you do a Fannie Mae loan or Freddie Mac loan, we've done a lot of those. If you do those right off the bat, you've got a big prepayment penalty on those, and so it really kind of handcuffs you to not be able to pull out a lot of your equity once you have that big equity gain. So that's why the bridge loan is an option, is a good option for deals like this where we can go in, increase the value pretty quickly within the first 18 months to 3 years, and then go to Fannie or Freddie, and then pull out a lot of our initial equity, and then hold it long term and cash flow it with as little of our own money in the deal as possible.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people they want to see that longer term, but you know I think that this is the appropriate strategy for this type of deal where you're kind of coming at it with such a good price per door. The other situation where I've used it in the past is a deal where the rents were so under market to bump it up without doing anything. Then that was another situation where it was kind of worth doing it. So I think if you're kind of looking at it in terms of oh you know it's not a 10-year term on the loan and you're out. I think you got to have a little bit more open mind here because there's a lot more reward on the table for kind of going at it this route. Another thing about the long term Fannie Mae Freddie Mac financing is you kind of get hit on the back end if you want to sell it, and our plan is to sell it eventually. Um, it's actually you don't even really factor that into the deal. I mean, you kind of so we are raising what about 3.5 million bucks on this deal. Um, that's kind of the total private equity being raised from this,
Right.
amortized over 30 years. Um,
Yeah, the first 3 months we've got, or the first 3 years we got interest only, so that we've got that shown there on the loan schedule. If we can exit by exit into a Fannie or Freddie Mac earlier, then we will. And again, we'll most likely get interest only once we do that as well for the first 2 3 years. Is kind of what the going rate is right now, or longer really. So, but we assumed in year 4 that we wouldn't get any interest only in the when we went to the agency loan. Because that is, 2 to 3 years down the road. So, so maybe we get 2 years, maybe we don't, but we want to be kind of conservative on that.
yeah, and that the refinance is nice because it's like a non-capitalizing event, right? Or I don't know if that's the right term, but from tax perspective,
Right. Yeah.
it's
So
just like
and that's the cool thing is we get a lot of our equity back to investors, and it's a non-taxable event, so they can take that money and reinvest with us or somebody else, or do whatever they want with it. So here's the 5 year cash flow model, and the economic vacancy, that right there. Again, I don't mean to geek out about it too much, but that's really where we baked in the conservative part on this. I mean the that 642. That's I have to do some quick math on this again, but that's like 25% economic or 22% economic vacancy, which is just way too high for what's actually going on at the property. But again, we wanted to bake in there kind of some conservative numbers as well there, and you can see it kind of walks down the economic vacancy from years 1 down to year 5 once we hit that kind of stabilization on there. We grew gross rents by 2% a year, so again, we're pretty. That's well under the average kind of national inflation that we've seen.
yeah, and I think I don't know if this figure really shows it, but again, you've got the 2% rent increases per year, and that's like the rent escalator. Uh, you know, most other guys are using like 2.5, 3% plus. That'll change this deal from like 120% up to 150% in 5 years, like that. That's a big lever to pull.
Right,
Um, when kind of Kenny's playing around with the economic vacancy, where he's going like 22% year 1, getting cute and making it 18% year 2, or what does it kind of go up to about? Like, does it kind of stay? What does it get up to year 5?
year 5 is down to that's going to be 12%.
Yeah, he's kind of curving into that nice 12%. I mean, you could kind of do it a little bit more aggressively, but that doesn't really affect things too much. The important thing is in year 1, he's got that 22% in year, and that's kind of taken into account there.
Right,
But the big thing, what I was very surprised about this deal, when it kind of made me spit out my cartoon cereal there, was in year 1, right off the bat, you're looking at just bumping the rents 3%. The most times in these type of double your money in 5 year type of deals, these more lighter rehab projects of under $4,000 per unit, you're looking at a first year bump of anywhere from 8 to 12% a year, and we're
right,
just modeling 3% there.
right,
So it's nice for us that we have a lot of wiggle room there, and it's nice for the people living there knowing that their rents aren't just going to get jacked up in the first year.
right.
Um, Anything else you want to talk about here? Oh, I really thought Kenny should take an acquisition fee on this one, but he's not. One of these days, yeah, when that
yeah.
operator creep comes into play.
Um, so here's an example: if you invest 100K, so and we use that to make the math easy for everybody. But cash flow the first year, I think we'll be able to beat that. But that's kind of what we're showing right now, mostly because that economic vacancy and the low rents that we assumed. I think we can push those higher, but that's what we're showing. Year two gets a lot nicer, 11.3%, 11,000 bucks. Retained equity, that's the big jump, right? So once we get that NOI increased, that's where on paper um, our invested equity is going to grow fairly quickly on this deal. Um, and by year three, we're showing another $11,000, almost $12,000 for cash flow, a second bump for retained equity, and then return of capital. We're only showing 31% there. I think that's low from what we're actually going to be able to give back. Usually, we aim for like a 50 to 80% um, equity return on a cash out refi. But again, we like to be conservative. So, and then it kind of goes on there for year four and year five out.
Yeah. So when is cash flow going to start? Like what quarter?
I think 6 months after we close this deal, it's going to be, if we can keep it stable, which the market says we can, then I think we'll have some cash flow within the first 6 months.
And so the next question that a lot of people ask here, that that return of capital, that's the coming from the refinance.
Right.
I think a lot of deals you're seeing these days are cash flowing maybe about 8, maybe 9%. A lot of that is because of the interest only, and that's what you're kind of seeing there. Year 2 and 3 are higher than year 4, 5. There's a little dip, and that's primarily because of the interest only wears off at year 3.
Right.
And
Also, too, that those returns that we're showing too on the cash flow, that's based off your initial equity. So if you take out, it all depends on how you calculate your cash flow, right? So if you take out that, even if you just hit that 30,000 back, that's going to bump that 9.3% a year actually up by 30% on what you're actually cash flowing from your initial equity. So, but
yeah,
we tend not to show that.
and I always run these deals through my spreadsheet and do it myself. But I know a lot of you guys look at IR, and I never really looked at IR because it's very manipulated. I know Kenny, you've told me you don't even put this on your deals because it's dumb. Why I use that's my term, but here's the reason why, right? Like if you say you have probably like a 15% IR deal, right? And we bump that 5,700 in year one up to 8,000 in year one, just right. I mean, because we could probably just pull the lever on that and make magic happen. I mean, that would bump that IRR like really, really high, probably like from 15% to 17%, and just by doing that little magic trick. So in my opinion, I don't like IR. It's easy manipulable because you're taking the same amount of returns, but you're just moving it up in the timeline, because that's what
Right.
that calculation is supposed to do. It's supposed to be calculate time value of money for you.
Right. There's beautiful downtown El Paso.
Those aren't pyramids. That's just the
Oh
graphics
yeah,
person getting cute
that's
there.
true.
Um, Actually, the first time I've heard about El Paso, when I used to work for the railroad, um, it's a big railroad town, and which is a good
Yeah.
thing because of industry, and it comes into there. What's your thoughts on the whole Mexico? Mexico is right there, and it's kind of funny. This guy came along with me, a local. He kind of goes down there a lot, I guess. But yeah, how does that all work? I mean, not very many of us don't know too much about El Paso. We know there's the military presence there. But
Right. The biggest employer is the import export between U.S. and Mexico. I mean, that's the biggest deal. The That's the biggest employer. That's the most goods traded between the U.S. and Mexico is right through there in El Paso. Again, it's a big railroad town. You've got Union Pacific there. It's got a huge train depot. Um, you've got Border Patrol headquarters is there. You've got FBI there. You've got Fort Bliss. So you got the good government presence there as well. It's got a big Texas Tech medical facility there in the city, and then you've got University of Texas El Paso, which is about 22,000 kids. You've got a community college that is just as big, so it's again about 20,000 kids there as well. So you've got a very diverse um, economic drivers. You've got about a million people in the El Paso MSA on the U.S. side, and about 2.6 million on the Mexico side. Um,
Wow.
El Paso is it's been for the past, I think, 5 or 6 years. It's ranked in the top one or two safest cities in the U.S. over 500,000 people. So it's a really safe town. There's no, it's just a cool little town out there in far west Texas.
So some of the demographics here in the 2 mile radius of the property, and this is the kind of it's in the northern part. This is definitely the blue collar type side of town. Um, it's not. I wouldn't say it's in the path of progress, but it's underwritten that way with the 2% rent growth and the other indicators and the higher vacancy first few years.
Right. So El Paso is very sprawling. So you've got a mountain, right in the middle of downtown, which is pretty cool. But so it splits it in west and east El Paso. So far, they've been growing out. They keep growing out farther and farther, but the traffic is getting a lot worse there in El Paso. So I think eventually we're going to see that come back into town um, to a place like this, and we're seeing that with the on that Dyer Street with the commercial kind of all being revamped right there.
Um,
And there you go. There's all the bragging rights.
yeah. I mean, I think in this type of environment these days, you just can't go to really Dallas or a lot of definitely can't go to the primary markets, but like of the secondary markets, Dallas, by the way, is considered a primary top tier market these days,
Right.
which is reason really not to go there because you can't find these off market deals direct from seller.
Yeah. Well, and then El Paso is the 19th largest city in the U.S., so it's not a small city by any means, but it's kind of one of those kind of hidden gems that, again, the Californians haven't really shown up there yet. They're starting to, from what we've heard from brokers there, and then the some of the other bigger real estate groups haven't really gone out to El Paso yet, but it's definitely coming. There you go. There's your attractions. You got UTEP down there, kind of right downtown. El Paso Zoo right there is downtown as well. Um, you got Fort Bliss. You got the big mountain right there. That's the green section in the middle of town. Um, it's kind of the layout right there.
So what's the deal with Juarez down the south of there? I mean, I know it's not safe for us to go, but what I heard is like people will head down there for like dentists and stuff like that, dentist services or things are cheaper.
Yeah, I think if you have a translator and maybe a local, you'll be all right. But it's really interesting because you can obviously look right across the border, the dichotomy between Juarez, which is a rougher city compared to El Paso, which is one of the safest cities in the U.S. Um, it's really interesting. Even the architecture, it's a little bit more colorful on the Mexico side. You look across, there's a lot of pink and teals and other kind of buildings down there, mostly out of cinder block and all that. But you've got a lot of those folks actually have day passes to come work in El Paso. Um, so they line up at the border and have their pass and drive through, and then have to drive back that night and do it all over again, I guess.
Yeah, and this is a joke. So if they ever build that wall, right? I mean, wow, like, El Paso's gonna be happening.
Well, it already has one. It already has one down there. um, so
So yeah, so if you guys got some questions, you go ahead and type it in. We've got a few of them that people have sent in. I'll queue them up here. What kind of loan will be attained to purchasing the property? We kind of talked about this, but again, non-recourse bridge loan, 3-year initial term with 2 1-year extensions, first years of interest only. And then the idea is that we're kind of taking on this this a little bit more risk, but a lot more reward to go and bump the NOI, get that low hanging fruit, and then refinance it and pull that capital out tax free, and then get that longer term loan on that bigger amount. Purchase price on the property 14.5. Uh, we usually get that appraisal back in the later stages, right before we
Yeah, we
close.
usually get a few weeks before close, so it's really, I mean, that, but the appraisal is going to come back fine. We bought our property, like I said, just 10 minutes away, and we paid 49 a door. And it was a mid 70s flat roof, C plus deal. So we paid a little bit more per unit for that one. Units were a little bit bigger, I think, is the difference, but but it should appraise fine.
Yeah, what are the terms on the loan? We kind of said that 6% interest rate. Uh, I, I think if you're thinking that that's higher, then you don't really know the numbers yourself. It doesn't really change the numbers too much.
Right, and it's interest only, so
This is all bills paid property, or RUBS is the acronym used for this. Answer is no. Residents pay their own electricity, and other utilities are billed back to the residents. And I was kind of surprised by this. I mean, you see this a lot in like places like Ohio, or I guess more urban areas. I don't know. I guess it's all over the place. But for some reason, I thought El Paso, they would have rejected this. But they're all trained up to pay their own utilities.
yep, they all pay. Yep.
How much are closing costs? 250,000, includes legal fees, due diligence costs, and no acquisition fee. Um, I have to get you out to Hawaii. Start taking that.
All right.
What will the rehab budget cover? You guys can read that. How much are the management fees? So this is the asset management fees, 1.5% of income collected. Very typical. I mean, that's a fly in the bucket. I mean, when you guys look at fees, don't just line up the asset management fee, distribution fee, and acquisition fee, because the acquisition fee is usually off the whole property. In this case, would be 14 million bucks. The asset management fee is just off the income, which is like a fraction of the other one.
Right.
So a little bit of insider advice there. How is the plumbing at the property? Checked out good. Um, how was the electrical on this one, Kenny? Was it because we're talking 1960s? I mean, a lot of times that the
So
lender won't lend on it if it's a certain kind of wiring.
right,
Uh,
if it yeah, yeah, the wiring was fine. Boxes are fine as well.
uh, the roofs, maybe kind of talk about, because the roofs kind of came up during due diligence, right? And you guys addressed that.
Yeah, we did. So the seller's going to fix the. He's going to give us a credit for to replace the office roof, and there's some other minor repairs that need to be done on the property. The good thing about El Paso is that it doesn't rain very much. It's in the high desert, so the roofs aren't as big of a concern there as in other markets where it rains a lot more.
Um, Investor requirements. We are taking accredited or sophisticated investors that are non-accredited, but a limited number of non-accredited investors.
Right.
What is the minimum maximum that I can invest? The minimum investment amount will be $50,000, and the maximum will be $650,000. And that's why I like, I have that form when you guys click to put in your amount, and then give me a ballpark of how confident you are. That way, I can kind of shuffle things around, because I think this is a pretty dang good deal, guys. I'm thinking about kind of doubling down on this one myself, and I would prefer to get as many people as possible, so it helps me shuffle things around too. I'll get to some of these questions on the chat box here. So someone asked, is if a solo 401k is used, will the refi into Fannie Mae Freddie Mac loan trigger a UBIT tax or UBIT? So we're not here to give you guys tax or legal advice, but as I understand, if you are going to use a solo 401k, which is different from a self-directed IRA, I mean that's the whole point why you use a solo 401k, or they call them EQRPs or QRPs. You can invest via your retirement funds and get around this whole UBIT tax issue. Um,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Because the UBITs, from what I understand as well, is just on the on self-directed IRAs.
right, right. And if you guys don't know what the UBIT tax is, so if you're using like a self-directed IRA, self-directed Roth IRA, the government will tax you on the leverage portion of that because they'll be like, hey, you're investing in this thing and we're giving you the good tax treatment, but Kenny guys are going to get like get a loan on the property for the majority. Let's just say it's like a 80-20, 80% leverage. They're going to tax you at 80% of that income that you generate from that. So what guys do is they get this solo 401k or QRP set up. And if you guys want more information, check out simplepassivecashflow.com/QRP. It's all for entertainment, but there's a free book on there you guys can get to read up on it. Or always just email me and we can talk about it later. Every situation is unique. Another question here. Yeah, we'll send out the deal deck, and I've got a password protected website that I asked you guys not to share with all the stuff in here, and then I'll try and update it as things develop as we're just kind of moving along through due diligence. We're past due diligence, but just to the closing. Um, Sponsors will be investing alongside. We'll be coming in with at least 5 to 10% of the total, which is
Right.
pretty typical.
But I wanted to that we kind of missed that one question up there. So the property technically is in the floodplain, but we have elevation certificates on each building, where the buildings are actually built up high enough where they're not considered in the floodplain. So I wanted to kind of pass that on to everybody. So,
Oh,
um,
I was just reading from the group chat box. That's funny that it all lined up perfectly like
okay, all
that.
right.
So
So we'll have flood insurance where we need it, but a lot of those buildings won't have to be on flood insurance because they. So an elevation certificate, for those that don't know, is they pay an engineer to come out, and it's like 2 to 3K a building, but they take a survey, basically resurvey it and see the difference between how high the buildings are compared to other parts of the property, and then if they're high enough, then that means that they're technically not in the floodplain, and so they won't be impacted by the 100 to 500 year flood numbers.
okay, so for the next question on the chat box, for the second permanent loan, was expected the early payoff penalty scheduled to be? I think they're referring to the long term Fannie Mae Freddie Mac that we'll get after the bridge loan.
Right. So typically, we'll either do a 10 or 12 year term loan on that, depending on what's the best terms for that. So what we'll do is usually those prepayment penalties are either a step down or they're a defeasance of the remaining interest paid on there. So it goes on exponentially each year. Usually with the Fannie Mae, the prepayment fully goes away 6 months to the end of that 10 or 12 year term. But again, we'll have options to. So that's the prepayment penalty on those. But if we go with Fannie Mae, we'll be able to do another cash out refi within 2 to 3 years of our ownership on the deal if we so choose to do that as well.
Yeah, flood never really passed my mind in this deal. Is it?
Well, because it's all desert out there.
Yeah, but I mean, is it that or is it the tornadoes or what's the big?
There's typically no tornadoes. It's too high elevation. It's like 4,400 feet above sea level. So it's a higher elevation deal. Um, they have them every once in a while, but that's typically not what's uh, the issue there. Tornadoes.
How will profits be distributed to investors? So this is a very simple payout scheme. Um, you come in and 80% of the cash flows and distributions will go out to the limited partners, you guys, and the general partnership will retain 20%, which is, I think, very fair. And let me know if you can find something better than that. Um, Refinance proceeds will also be at that 80-20%. And of course, this is after the 0% acquisition fee and then the 1.5 asset management fee. And that, if you guys do the math, that just barely pays for Kenny to go out there and for folks to go out there and get a decent hotel. Where do you stay when you go to the Marriott or?
Usually it's a day trip. I fly out there in the morning, catch the 7 a.m. flight, and then come back on the 7 o'clock flight.
So yeah, it's not any tricky kind of waterfalls, and there's no pref. I saw a forum post the other day, and it's like, don't invest without a pref, and I thought that was the stupidest thing I ever heard, because the general partner is just gonna like, all right, you want your pref? Here's your 8 pref, and I'm just gonna screw you in on the back end and take 65-35 on it.
Right.
And that's what really happened. So let me know if you guys want a pref. No, no. Due diligence is complete. Total rehab budget 850,000. I think that's again 2,700 a unit.
Right.
Um, we're kind of getting to the end here, so if you guys have cash flow is going to be paid quarterly on
Right.
this, probably starting in the second or third quarter, but who knows? We may get lucky and get it in first.
Right.
Another question from the box. Do you have any concern with the 75% LTV refinance in a few years for loan covenants in the event of a market turndown?
I don't, because we're going to have so much equity built in because the higher NOI, that our loan to value ratio is going to be pretty low going into the refinance. So I don't really expect that to be an issue.
All right, so here's kind of the closeout slide here. Um, and I always tell you guys, ask me what I think about the deal. I mean, there's always good or bad things. I think this deal is pretty overwhelmingly good. Um, I'm going in for sure. Um, and I kind of talked about this with Kenny a little bit. The biggest risk here are getting the upgraded units leased at $25 premium over the classic units. You want to kind of talk about this a little bit, Kenny? This is kind
Yeah,
of
and they've
yours.
already rolled out, like I said, that the option between either the glass top backsplash and the black appliances. I don't think they've really been successful at that. I think it, and I mean they definitely released a few, like a handful, but I think it, when you do that, when you give them the choice and they can't see it in person, I think that really waters down your success. We've seen that at other properties that we've been involved with. So what we do is we go ahead and upgrade the units, so when they walk in and they see the actual finished product, that way they can't, in general, folks can't really see what you're trying to paint a picture of them. So if they can actually show them the upgraded unit with the backsplash and the black appliances, for the $35, where they were just paying 35 for one or the other. I feel like we're going to be able to get there pretty easy. And then also owning that other asset in El Paso now, where we're getting higher rents just by cleaning the unit. It's also a good sign as well.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned it earlier in the presentation. This project is up in the northwest side. It's not in the path of progress. It's not where all the cool bars or restaurants going in. It's always going to be this type of area, but that Dryer Street, just like half a block away, walkable distance, you've got the new Panda Express there. No, I say that jokingly. That's already there, but you've got a bunch of the deboxing of the Kmart, new retail, um, just a pretty nice new thoroughfare where and if you guys have been to like Wenatchee, Washington, where there's absolutely no sidewalks there, it's the complete opposite of that. And I think the underwriting kind of shows that it takes that to account with the 2% rent increases, the 22% economic vacancy year one, and that's when you're already at 90% occupancy or 90, it's probably about 92 right now.
Yeah,
That's
92.
what
Yeah.
they told me. Question here that came in late. Do investors stay in the life of the property or until sold? You guys are into the until sold, even after the refinance.
Right. Yep.
Somebody's blow drying their hair in the morning. It's always funny when you hear people like arguing with their spouse. It's always really embarrassing. But why is Lane investing? I'll tell you why, Kenny. Small assumption in the rent bumps, only 3% from current. Normally, I see these deals; they're bumping the rents up 8 to 12%. Um, that's kind of shows how. I think that's just the driver is that it's off market from direct from seller. 47,000 a unit. And if you think about it, 47,000 a unit and you're getting what, 600 or so a little at least. I mean, you're talking about picking up a 1.5% rent to value property
Right.
today. And then we'll bump that and try and improve that. So in El Paso emerging market, Kenny's kind of finally talked me into that one. So I'm going to add it to my portfolio. Just put it all around the map. This is your guys' final chance for questions, but here's our action items. I'll send out the deal deck for you guys to review, and contact me at lane@simplepassivecashflow.com if you got any questions. I will send out a link to a top secret website with a secret password. To press the button to do a soft reserve on there. And there you will be able to watch this webinar. I'll also put up another video of my my walkthroughs through the property and around, and some of the other comps. I got a new fishbowl lens, so it's actually kind of cool. You kind of feel the dust come up against you and get a sense of how things are out there. And then await for the PPM. We'll send that out to you. It'll usually be pretty quick, but as we get to the end here, what we try and kind of slow people down a little bit so we don't get overwhelmed and overcommit ourselves and have to tell people that we have to turn people away. So that's what's there. But if you don't get anything in like a day, shoot me an email and maybe it got lost. After confirming a soft reserve on that form link. Again, minimums are $50,000. We're accepting non-accredited investors with pre-existing relationships, and all accredited investors accepted. And anything we missed there, Kenny?
I don't think so. I can't see the chat box, but if we've answered all those questions, then I think we're good.
Yeah, they're speechless.
All right.
So yeah, thanks everybody for jumping on. Really do appreciate you guys showing up for this. I think most guys will probably be on their way to work this time, but we'll talk to you guys in the next deal. Bye.
All right, thanks, guys.
Howdy. Let's go to check out this property, the trails at Rancho Vista. Here is the little gym. This will be made a little nicer. Overall, the clubhouse is pretty nice. Just a little tired. Definitely can use a little bit of improvement. But it's very stabilized property for the most part. View of the leasing office. There are a few people in there. Staff is pretty helpful. So we're walking out to see some of the units. Here's that playground there. It is pretty sandy, and that was one of the things that the property management mentioned, that they kind of want to change it out, just the material. If the things like the railings, paint, Definitely looks like it needs to be just light exterior improvements there.
This is the one bedroom. Yeah, this one isn't upgraded.
Oh, this is the upgraded one.
No, it's not.
Oh, okay, basic.
I'll try to
She's probably thinking, yeah, because it is kind of like the window. But then again, maybe that'll blow up. Yeah, it's kind of cool here. Yeah, it's not that bad.
And then there's a closet right over here.
So walk-in closet. And a lot of the walls had this concrete. Ceiling fans. Here's the heater. One of the problems in this property is the water heater was underneath that center console. Here is the railings. Here's some of the paint. It needs to just be repainted. The day we were out there it was pretty nice, but I can see how, man, this place can get pretty hot out there. But the overall feel is very safe for the whole community. And here we walk into the model. So the floors are the same.
Yes, they have the upgrade here, which is the backsplash.
Yeah.
And then the breakfast bar is more updated as well.
And then countertops.
Yeah. There's some apartments that have the appliances upgraded as well.
Oh, okay.
But this isn't one of them.
But the same stove and
Yes.
refrigerator. A lot of storage in here. And as we check out the bathroom, you can see all the upgrades that got done, which we're inheriting. They just didn't really capitalize on the rent bumps on doing that extra work, so better for us. Here's a layout of the complex. You've got the two outer rolls and you've got the complexes on the inside. Here's kind of the outlook on one of the sides. You've got the high school in the back there with the football and the baseball stadium right behind there. And then there's a little dry stream back there or a reservoir. A couple investors came with us. A lot of stuff like that'll get cleaned up later on. Ideally when these guys know that they're selling, they'll kind of let stuff pile up a little bit for maintenance. 3-bedroom. Oh wow, this is big. Whoa, what is? I didn't expect this. This is big. That master bedroom is pretty nice.
Yeah, the houses are nice. Like these are nice.
Oh, wow.
How many square feet is this one?
1,100.
Hey, what do you guys think? Good?
I like
See
it.
any more?
But it has the appliances, like the wood cabinets.
Yeah. You guys doing the carpet on the second floor for like the noise, or it's just kind of random?
No, some of them have full wood flooring as well.
You know, hopefully the music reminds you of Storage Wars and finding lost treasure, because in this property, sort of like the previous seller, made a lot of these upgrades, like the bathroom, flooring, and tiling. Here's a view from the back, and what they do is they keep that back closed. It's the farthest from the office. It's just for security reasons. And here's kind of wrapping up the tour of the trails. And we're gonna go off and check out some of the comps. Come along with us. Next one we're gonna check out is the Maximus Apartments there. So just heading down the street. That's trails run the right. On the left,
Yeah, that's the one.
used to be a Kmart, but that got closed down a couple years ago as a story. But now they're unboxing it and breathing new life into that shopping mall. So that'll be good news for us. The Express. And of course, at Panda Express, there's a transit center right nearby, a couple blocks away. And you see a lot of the new storefronts popping up just on Dryer Street. That's the main drag right next to the trails.
The green bike
And
lanes.
as a city engineer, I like to see this nice curb and gutter and then the bike lanes. Next one we're gonna check out is the Maximus Apartments. Here it is. It's pretty crummy looking. It's a converted old motel. I think it must have been built in like the 1930s or 40s. Pretty bad area, and that's the comps on that one are like way up too high in my opinion. But that's a good thing. And here's another good thing: the property management company is using a shopping cart to take care of their maintenance. Next on the list is the Rain Tree Village Apartments. Now this one wasn't too bad actually. Their rents, I don't think they were pushing rents as much as they should have. I mean, we didn't really check out units, but now we're heading off to Angel's Triangle, which they call Devil's Triangle, which is kind of on the tougher side. I would say call this more of a C class, C minus class area. Same property management company currently at the trails. But yeah, that's the trails right here, and some shots at nighttime. Nighttime's a great time to kind of check out the crime and do a night survey where you're trying to see if there's really the true occupancy there, because you know, people are mostly working in day, but they should be there at nighttime. All right, we'll talk to you guys later. Bye.